Hello and welcome. I'm JJ Flazanes, your host, and thank you for downloading today's episode. We're going to talk about how your negative emotions are toxic to your animals. I'm sure you understand they're toxic to you. We're going to learn today how they affect our animals and why our animals are so affected by our emotions and how they have certain receptor sites and elevated abilities that we don't have. And you're going to hear towards the end of the show, one of the prescriptions, of course, is to find more joy and to find more happiness, because that helps everyone increase their immunity and their immune system in general. And as you know, that is one of my main goals. And so I have many tools available to you, some of which are completely free, like the Manifestation Challenge. And we just completed one in June. The next one won't be till September. If you're interested in joining that, you can go to jjflazanes.com/30day, 30day. However, you won't be let into the Facebook group until about August. So just if you want to register now, that's completely cool. Just know you're not going to be let into the Facebook group until about 2 weeks ahead of time, where you can watch all the videos and get up to speed with what is sort of required or needed, get all your questions answered, feel really confident about September 1st and doing the next Manifestation Challenge. And what I have learned over time doing them for a couple of years now is that definitely people manifest things that they didn't expect. They up their game, they change their situations, and that's awesome. And one of the areas in which people complain about the most, and while they do make improvements, and some people make huge improvements, but one of the areas that I want to concentrate on the most is money for a lot of you. So I've created the Manifestation Boot Camp. It's live in person, October 11th through the 13th here in Los Angeles. We have a limited room, and I'm already a quarter of the way full. The reason why I want to bring people together to do it is twofold. Number one, we're going to go over practical exercises that really can't be done virtually in the free challenge as we do it, because they are things that get taught in person. You experience them in person. And I'm bringing in Lisa Thomas, and if you've listened to the show for a while, you know she clears inherited emotional DNA. She also clears inherited money blocks that are in your lineage. She also clears scarcity and other aspects of emotions and energy that block money from coming to you. So the October Manifestation Boot Camp, while it will be to change your point of attraction, the point at which your comfort level, if you will, with what you manifest all the time, what you feel worthy of, we're going to increase that tenfold by not only removing the blocks with Lisa that stand in your way, the stuff in your heritage you can't do anything about. We're also going to change your subconscious and your conscious mind around being able to receive more than you're used to receiving now. And this is all going to be done in person, and there is a limit to the room. So I encourage you to get your ticket. As you've heard in the past, I'm working with a new company who is going to be doing a lot of promotion for me. And because of that, I'm going to be increasing prices because they are taking a percentage. So with that said, you as a listener who are not affected by that yet, get the original price, which is going to be $200 off where it's going. So go to jjflazanes.com/bootcamp. There is still a payment plan for it, a 2 or 3 month, if you'd like to take advantage of that. But I would recommend getting it now, jjflazanes.com/bootcamp. Now, today's show, I am talking with Rachel Augusta. Rachel works with animals all over the world who are sick, injured, have a terminal illness, or suffer from trauma due to previous abuse. Rachel's business was featured in a best-selling Hay House published book, Women Rocking Business. She has been interviewed by the International Animal Protection Organization in Defense of Animals, has been interviewed on numerous podcasts and radio shows, was a keynote speaker at the WomanSpeak International Festival, and because of her activism, Rachel was interviewed by the New York Times, CNN, BBC, and was on the cover of People magazine. Rachel is the modern Dr. Dolittle, and she is committed to helping us keep our fur babies healthy. Welcome to the show, Rachel.
Hello, thank you.
So I know you've been titled, quote unquote, the modern Dr. Dolittle because of your work. I know you're a health practitioner, and you work with animals, and you link animals' disease with human conditions and human stress. So when we met, I know I loved you for all the different things that came out of your mouth. I know I assumed that you had special gifts and talents in animal communication, and because whether you do or you don't, I know that you have said that you don't, noticing and taking cues is more of an intuition and a gut feeling and being really in tune with both animals and with people and with conditions and toxic thoughts and feelings and behaviors and habits, which is energy, right, that translate into disease or into health. And so I want to unpack how you're a modern Dr. Mrs. Dolittle, and go through your work in the world and what started you on this mission. Why are you doing this work?
Yeah, thank you. And the thing is, I don't tote myself as an animal communicator, but truthfully, like all of us have the ability to tap into our intuition and have conversations with, others and other beings on this planet. But really, I focus on the health. And what got me into that was my own fur baby, my own soul companion, my cat, who was diagnosed with, in quotations, an incurable disease. And the vet was like, she's old, she's had a good life, she'll die soon. And, while those things were true, I wasn't actually okay with that answer. I felt like it was sort of a lazy answer, to be honest. And I knew that if anyone was going to help my cat in that moment, Holly, it was going to be me. It had to be me. And so what's interesting is that without knowing what I was going through and that my cat had just been diagnosed with terminal illness, a friend of mine had asked me in an email the next day, have you heard of the school? It teaches you how to work with animals, and they're going to be teaching classes at the U of M next month. And which was, a coincidence and not a coincidence. And so I enrolled in this school, Healing Touch for Animals. Healing Touch for Humans is actually used in hospitals, and Healing Touch for Animals is used in veterinary clinics across the world, actually. And I started learning how to build up her immune system pretty quickly through the techniques that they taught. She was given a couple of weeks to live, and my cat ended up living an additional 3 years based on some of these techniques. And because of the success I had with her, of course, then all of my friends were like, here's my cat, here's my dog, here's my horse, here's my bunny, here's my sugar glider, here's my, and they all started, basically everybody started giving me their animals to help. And at a certain point, I realized, I think this might be my job. And so I switched directions and started doing this for other people. And I haven't looked back since.
Were you in the health field before this diagnosis of your cat?
No, not even close. I was actually in the process of becoming a clothing manufacturer for women. And what's funny is that was not really working out for me at all. I was hitting a ton of roadblocks and pulling my hair out trying to get this business off the ground. And then when my cat got sick, that really became my main focus. And without any effort at all, I became a health practitioner working with animals. And that was really my signal that I was doing the right thing and trusting my intuition, going back to that.
Let's talk about what you've learned, not just in the training that you did, but in the observation of where the training comes from and how people can help or hurt their animals knowingly in their own behaviors. Because I know there's a lot of linking between the stress of a human and an animal, and most people who have, I think that's one of the things that you might have said when we met and when I heard your pitch. And I was like right there with you, because so many people who have anxiety have animals who also have anxiety, or are sick, and they wonder why, because they live in an environment, but not even animals, just kids. I have a client who has a child who is ADD or ADHD on medication, and I'm like, well, she grew up with two parents who are both drug addicts and constantly fighting, and the atmosphere, the environment isn't
toxic.
Right. It's toxic. It's not a strong foundation. So talk a little bit about the things that you learned as you continued to study and work with people.
Totally. And that's the thing is I started off, living in a state of reactionary for myself and with my clients. My cat got really sick, and now I'm trying to figure out how to cure her. And I would be called into homes, with animals who have late stage cancer, stage 4 cancer. And jokingly, I had thought about putting on my business card, like the last resort, because, people would come to me as a last resort, and it was when things were really, really horrible. But there was started to be a common thread, a theme that I noticed sort of accidentally. And that was when these animals were really sick, it's because the humans were going through something really traumatic. And I say accidentally because, these weren't normal, I wasn't asking questions like to begin with. When I first started my practice, I was focusing on the animal, what are they eating? What are they doing? When did they get the diagnosis? What was the prognosis? And then, just getting to know my clients, they would just randomly tell me, yeah, things were great until I got breast cancer. But they weren't saying it to me to tell me as an alert system of like, this is when my dog got sick. This might be why my dog got sick. They were just saying it because they needed an ear. They needed a friendly face. They needed a hug. And so these people started telling me things that were going on in their life. And then I started to ask questions about, well, what was the timeline on that in correlation with your animal getting sick? And I could start to actually pinpoint it pretty well. And so for a while, I actually thought, oh, this is my theory that, this is what I think happens. But a couple of years ago, some scientists from the Department of Biology in Naples, Italy, were able to prove that not only do animals smell our emotions, and we've known for a long time that animals can smell our emotions. We know that they smell fear, and they smell excitement, and they smell anxiety. They smell cancer. Animals can smell diabetes on us. We know that. But what we didn't know until the Department of Biology in Naples, Italy was able to prove this is not only do they smell our emotions, but they feel them with us. And so you could ask yourself, well, why does this matter? Because if I'm living in a state of stress, my body is always in fight or flight. And because my body is in fight or flight, I have a lot of cortisol being released. Cortisol causes inflammation, which leads to tumors, and that leads to cancer. And while this is happening in my body, it is also happening in my animal's body. Their body is releasing cortisol, which leads to tumors, and that leads to cancer. So our negative emotions can literally be toxic to our animal's health.
And without any training, I would have said, based on law of attraction and just physics in general, that animals would feel our emotions. Like that's, of course, they feel our emotions. They're in an environment of energy. Emotions are energy. But when you said we know that they smell our emotions, is that because of the pheromones and the cortisol? Like, tell me more about the smell of emotions.
Yeah, smell. So humans have 10 million neuron receptors associated with smell. And that sounds like a lot. But a cat has 80 million. And a dog has 400 million. And so if you think about, your olfactory bulb, when you smell something, it goes into your olfactory bulb and then starts to trigger your nervous system. And if their nervous system is constantly being triggered with negative things, it starts to break down your nervous system. So that's really important piece to understand.
So the smelling of emotions, right? I'm wondering how they become, is it the emotions translate into our own body chemicals that become, they get emitted? Because again, that whole idea of smelling emotions, I would think feeling first and smelling second, but you're saying that smelling.
They smell, well, their noses work better than ours do, and of course it's like, if you have a bad day at work, another human would know based on how you're behaving. And of course, your animal is going to know based on how you're behaving because they read body language as well. But they're also going to be able to smell it. And then they start to feel it with you. They're like, essentially, they're mirroring you. And one thing I tell clients and when I speak at events is just imagine that you're a skunk, cute skunk, but you're a skunk. And every time you have an emotion, you spray the smell out of you. And it's, I think about fear. Think of how much fear is going on around the world right now in our own country. Um, women are starting to wonder if their rights are being taken away from them, and they are. What's happening with the border, the children. There's so much going on in the world. A lot of people have compassion fatigue, and we can feel that on each other and we can see that on each other. But our animals can actually smell that on us. And because they can smell it so with such intensity, and because they love us so much, it starts to break down their body. And I think it's important for me to throw a disclaimer in here. Not all animals are walking around feeling your feelings with you. Like the squirrel who lives outside my window isn't going to be thrown into depression when I have PMS. It's the animals we have a deep bond with. And because they have a bond with us, it hurts them that we're hurting.
Absolutely. And it's also hurts that I just keep thinking of the frequency. The emotions is a frequency, it's a tone. Imagine if your emotions were a song. If you were angry, you'd be listening to heavy metal, screaming, anger music, violent music, and that over time affects everybody in the environment. Same thing with if it was you're a happy person all the time and then you're having really upbeat, very healing tones, then that frequency gets emitted and then absorbed by everybody around you too. And so I'm glad we're bringing light to this conversation, because too often, again, it is that our animals mirror what's going on with us in all ways. If there's fighting between children or parents or spouses or siblings, or, there's that, again, that gets emitted too. And an animal could run and then because of the fear, again, develop different kinds of rashes and different kinds of ticks and things, like hair loss and nervousness and anxiety. So, and I think,
yeah, totally. I mean, and that's the one thing too for people listening that are like, well, I don't really understand how them smelling or feeling is going to break down, is really going to mess with their health. Well, cortisol is one thing we talked about, but the other that's important is the physiological relaxation response. The physiological relaxation response, people say, what is that? When you're happy and you're experiencing, endorphins, serotonin, dopamine, it relaxes your muscles. And when your muscles are relaxed, your blood becomes oxygenated, which allows you to absorb nutrients more efficiently from your food and from your medications, from your herbs. Your stomach starts creating digestive enzymes, the hormones regulate, your body detoxes, and new cell growth happens. And that is why, if any of that is disrupted, you don't have new cell growth and you can't heal, actually. If you're in pain, if you're in physical or emotional pain, your body really can't heal. And this is why if you go to the doctor with a broken arm, they're going to ask you your pain level. If you say 2, they're going to give you an Advil. If you say 10, they're going to prescribe you a Percocet. They're not handing out painkillers because they feel bad for you. They're trying to trigger this response in you. And so if you're constantly living in a state of stress or depression or anxiety or nervousness, you get the tics, you get the rashes, you get all these things because you're disrupting this really crucial response in the body that allows the body to heal, that allows the body to absorb things, that allows your hormones to regulate. And so while you're doing that in you, you're also disrupting it in your animals.
So when you're looking at an animal of someone who has called you in as a last resource to see if you can heal them, are you giving both the guardian or human the same kind of attention as the animal? Or are you making suggestions on that in terms of how they can help assist their animal in healing? Or is it just directed at the animal?
Totally. Yeah, both. The thing too is this study is they said, okay, so if you are living in a state of depression or stress or, one of those negative emotions, it's going to make your body sick and your animal's body sick. But then in addition to that, the more you worry about the animal having a tumor, the more the tumor will grow. And so that is definitely a crucial part of my practice is when we have a scary diagnosis, yes, feel your feelings. You can't ignore your feelings. I know you know that. I've listened to a lot of your shows. You have to feel things, but you can't stay there. You can't live there. And what I've noticed and what I've witnessed is that when a human gets a really scary diagnosis with their animal, the humans that think, oh no, they're going to die, they're going to die, they're going to die, my animal's going to die, the animal does usually die pretty quickly. When the human thinks, you know what, I'm in it to win it, we're going to be on the Oprah show, the animal lives a lot longer than the vet's prognosis.
Well, that's basic law of attraction right there.
It is.
I've been interviewing lots of people. In fact, we've had on the show Dr. Roy Von Tama. He's a cancer doctor, and his book is called Healing Before You're Cured. And it's all about how emotions basically can create cancer. And he's a cancer doctor. Okay, so
Mm-hmm.
so we're
Yeah.
talking about physicians finally, talking about the link of emotions and our health and our autoimmune diseases and our ability to create an environment where we do have this. So it is an important conversation that when we're looking at our animals, that we can't just say, well, it's about the animals' environment, their food, how they're feeling. It's that we have a direct influence over that. So how often do you come into a place, walk us through your diagnosis or the way that you bridge that gap for the person who is so unaware that it's their emotions and their traumas that are really causing the animal to go
Yeah.
into this breakdown.
Yeah, God, it's hard. It's hard because because we want to blame ourselves already. We will blame ourselves. Oh no, it was the food, it was this, it was that. Like, humans already are geared up and ready to blame themselves for their animal's illness. And so then to say, but it's also you. You smell bad. You smell toxic. It's very, very difficult. And so what I say to people is, like, I explain this, I explain the research behind it. People always break down and start crying. Like, I've never not had somebody just lose it and start crying. And my next thing is to say, you can't actually blame yourself. Like, we don't know what we don't know, and we're learning. And, my hand's raised as well. Like, if I go back and look at when my beloved soul companion got sick, there was a lot of really horrible things going on in my life. And I was an emotional roller coaster. And I would be completely lying if I didn't think that I didn't contribute to her illness. I think of animals as we're in a symbiotic relationship with them. And I think that we have them in our lives because they help heal us. We help keep each other alive. They bring us healing and we can bring them healing. And when we're doing well, they can do well. But when we're not doing well, it's really a wake-up call to us to change our lives. And I feel like animals we have them in our lives. And if you look at them, they're teachers. Like, what do our dogs and cats teach us? They teach us to connect. They teach us to play. I think the reason why we love our animals so much is because when we're cuddling with them, they're not on their phone scrolling Facebook. They're not uploading Instagram. They're with us. They're connecting with us. And I think those are some of the biggest lessons we can get from animals is, like, we need more connection in our lives, which is why a lot of us suffer with these these negative emotions, is because we don't have connection. We don't have a tribe. We've lost the ability to play. We haven't tapped into our joy in a really long time. And I think they're here to help us do that.
No doubt they are here to help us heal in many ways. And sometimes they're here to take some of those burdens off of us. And some of them
Mm-hmm.
actually help us more on the other side than they do while they're here. And so I would want to piggyback on what you said in terms of the people who start to cry,
Yeah.
that to while you can change your behavior and have a wake up call, I would definitely recommend people not necessarily hold on to guilt or
Yeah.
shame of thinking that it's your fault that the animal is no longer here because your life was too stressful. Just take it as the animal's job was to come down and be the mirror for you so that you could change. And that was their
Completely.
whole reason of connecting with you in this lifetime, and that they're probably still watching over you and with you on the other side.
Yeah. And and a lot of times so many animals go into remission. Animals aren't invested in being sick. They're not. So when I work with them, I have thousands of animals who've gone into remission. I know far more animals that go into remission than I do humans because they're not invested in being sick. So I think a lot of times it's a major slap wake up call. Like, we need to turn the ship around. And when we do that, they heal and the human comes out going, wow, this saved both of us.
Okay, so let's talk about that. If someone has an animal who's been diagnosed with something awful like cancer or another disease, what can they do in the home to help?
Yeah. So I say get rid of the stinky stuff. And I mean stinky stuff in two different ways. Get rid of your stinky stuff, your personal, emotional smells that are going to be toxic to them. They actually asked the scientist in Italy, what can you, they asked him the same question, what can you do? And he said, take a shower, like literally wash the smell off of yourself. But to me, that's just the first step, wash the smell off, but actually tap into your joy, find a tribe, connect with humans, get a life mentor, like do what you need to do, go work out at the gym, whatever it is, change your diet, like be able to tap into your joy and happiness. So that's the stinky stuff. And then the other stinky stuff is the man-made stinky stuff. The hormone disruptors, the Glade plugins, the super toxic cleaners, candles, fragranced candles. Candles are really toxic. People don't realize that. Fragrance is extremely toxic. And if we go back to animals' noses and the neuron receptors in their nose, that's really important to remember. So we've all walked through a Macy's or a Nordstrom's or some big, huge mall where we've like walked into a perfume department and it's like overtaken us, right? You can feel it on your face. It's like, oh my God, I'm in the perfume department. Imagine it being 40 times stronger. That's what it's like for your animals, living in a house where people are burning like the Yankee candles or have the Glade plugins in. And what it does is it disrupts their hormones. And so, going back to that physiological relaxation response I had mentioned, if their hormones are disrupted, new cell growth can't happen. So if an animal has cancer, we want to build up their immune system, or if they're sick, if they have kidney disease, whatever it is, we want to build up their immune system. We can't do that if their hormones are being disrupted through hormone disruptors. And actually, there's a great documentary out there called Stink. And he talks about this for humans, and just imagine it's much, much worse for animals when you watch it. But a lot of times when I go into houses where animals are really, really, really sick and the vet can't diagnose them, it's usually there's something very smelly in the house. It's incense, it's candles, it's Glade plugins, potpourri, things like that. Or when someone has an animal where they do have a diagnosis, but it doesn't make sense, like a 4-year-old Chihuahua that has heart failure. A 4-year-old Chihuahua shouldn't be in heart failure. And then I go into the house and they're burning, pumpkin scented Yankee candles in every single room.
Okay, get rid of the stink. So I would say though, for most people, they're going to think, but those things smell good. So it's really anything artificial. Would that be it? Anything artificial? What about
artificial man-made smells?
What about essential oils?
I'm all for essential oils as long as they are okay to use with animals. So if they're therapeutic grade, the best way to know is if you go to the website and search the website and just see if it's pet friendly. I use Young Living. I was trained to use Young Living with animals. So I actually do use essential oils in my practice when animals have cancer, if I'm building up their immune systems, or if I'm helping them through trauma. You just want to make sure the essential oil is safe. And I would recommend not using anything from like Target, Walmart, Amazon, any of the horror stories that you read about online where somebody was diffusing an essential oil and it killed the animals. Those are the places where they were purchased. So,
yikes. Okay. Good to know.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but it's really the man-made fragrance. And the reason why, some of those oils from Walmart or Target or Amazon are not safe and others are is because they have fillers in them. They're man-made fragrance. It's not actually a real essential oil. They'll sell maybe jasmine for $3. Well, you can't possibly buy jasmine for $3. It's just a man-made fragrance to smell like jasmine, if that makes sense.
Totally.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. So we get out the stink, take a shower, tap into your joy, get rid of anything that smells. It's a man-made artificial smell or that isn't therapeutic grade essential oil. Anything else humans can do in the home to help heal their animals?
Those are really the main things. I mean, going back to, at the beginning when we talked about being intuitive and animal communication, just think about if you were maybe sick with something and your mom or somebody, a friend or your lover, your husband, your wife, whoever, your partner was standing over you saying, you're sick, you're sick, you're dying, you're dying, you're dying, you're dying. I don't want you to die. I don't want you to die. That would be horrible. That would be scary. And our animals can hear us say that. They can feel it. They can smell it. And so the best thing we can do for them is acknowledge that it scares us, move through it, and then be supportive to them in the way that we would want somebody to be supportive to us. Talk to them in the same way we would want somebody to talk to us while we are sick. And yeah, get rid of all the smelly stuff in the house that's going to really disrupt their hormones. And if people want to know more about that, I really do recommend the documentary Stink, because he goes into really, really deep detail about it in a way that we can't here right now.
Okay, I know I'm going to be watching it. I mean, I don't burn. I do sometimes burn some of those candles, but not Yankee, and very rarely. But I do have essential oils that are going on all the time, and most of them are DoTerra, but not all of them. So
doTERRA's fine. Yeah.
I'm gonna have to look it up.
Yeah, yeah, I would look it up. And and the thing too about candles is that the wick as well is something you want to think about. Most wicks are made out of lead. So you're actually burning lead in your house. And, and I used to burn candles in my bath. Like, what do women do when we're stressed out? We take baths, we burn candles. And I'm like, I'm burning lead right next to my head while I'm in the bathtub. And so I got rid of them. And I've since have seen candles that say that the wick is lead free. And so, but very rarely do I actually see that. So I have one candle that somebody gave me that actually says lead free, fragrance free on it. And that's really important. Their noses are so much greater than ours that it's going to, they have more neuron receptors in their brain associated with smell. So it's going to be much more toxic to them than it is to us.
So how do you think in your practice and the work that you've done that we can heal the body or put cancer into remission without using Western drugs like chemo after? I mean, is there anything else we can do after the shower and the emotions and the stink?
Yeah. I believe that joy is the antidote to disease, not just in ourselves, but in our animals. I believe in joy and relaxation. I think those are two of the best preventative medicines out there. And, and the thing is, what I know about women is that if we say to them, if you say to a woman, you need more joy in your life, she's going to be like, oh yeah, I know. But first I have to do the dishes, and then I have to go do laundry, and then I got to do this thing. But when you know that someone else's life actually depends upon it, that's what drives us to change. Because whether you are a mother to a human child or not, women, or fur baby or plant, women, we're just made with that motherly instinct to want to take care of other people. And so I would say tapping into joy, tapping into relaxation, going back to that physiological relaxation response. People say all the time, oh my God, it's a miracle. You were able to put my cat or my dog into remission, or that's a miracle. I'm like, while it looks like a miracle, it's amazing what the body does when you bring joy and relaxation into your life and into your brain. You can build up your immune system with those two things. You can create new cell growth with those two things. And so and that's really what I do in my practice is I'm all about endorphins. Let's create endorphins. For some people, that's meditation. For some people, that's dancing to the Ramones, like whatever it is. What can you do to bring some happiness into your life and to relax? Because that's preventative medicine.
Yep, it's also law of attraction. Again,
yeah,
back to
it all works.
Back to that we, there's a flow of well-being happening all the time, and we're really only deciding from moment to moment if we're connected or disconnected, if we're in alignment with it or if we're not in alignment with it. So becoming in alignment with it by getting yourself into these states will let your body heal itself. And that is definitely something that I promote. Haven't talked about it as much in the way of disease or regeneration or things like that, but absolutely it with the immunity and again, allowing the body to heal itself. I think that has to be the prescription for everyone, really in any condition. If there's a negative condition, is at first get happy, find your joy, tap into the source within you, and really trust and find the way to celebrate what's going on right now, and let go of the story that leads you down the path of worry and anxiety and fear, which only creates more worry, anxiety, and fear, and doesn't allow the body to do what it needs to do to heal itself. So
Exactly. Exactly. And that's why we see animals heal so much more quickly than humans, because they're, as I mentioned, they're not invested in being sick, whereas a human, it's like, well, I'm mad about something that happened to me when I was 4. I'm holding on to something from childhood that I have to work through. And so, whereas animals they don't do that for the most part. And they're able to just get out of their way and let their body do what it needs to do.
So I give a lot of health advice because I've been studying all different aspects of health and alternative medicine, and at the same time, there's a balance between someone who is working with a physician or 2 or 3 or 5, and sort of the balance between that. What would you tell somebody listening about the work that you do versus going to the vet?
Um, yeah, I've had a lot of people say to me, thank you. You're like a ray of hope. You're giving me hope. The work I do, veterinarians, Western medicine is great. I'm so thankful for it. We all know somebody whose life has been saved for it. If you've been shot with a bullet, if you've been in a car accident, if you've broken your legs, by all means, go to the doctor, go to the hospital. If your dog's been hit, if something traumatic, physical trauma has happened, you need to take them to the vet. We need a diagnosis. We need to sew them up. The difference is that, they're good at giving a diagnosis, and they're really good at stitching up wounds, but they don't work with the immune system. And really they don't work with the brain and the body. And that's the main difference. And so a lot of times when a vet gives a diagnosis and then a prognosis, it's totally wrong. They don't always know, and that's okay. It's not their job. And one thing that really bothers me, sometimes is when doctors and vets say there's nothing more that can be done. No, there's nothing more they can do. They've sewed up, they've done what they can do. Now they just need to pass it off to someone else. And I actually worked with a scientist, cancer researcher, and he said to me, Rachel, when you scratch your hand, dead skin cells fall off, and your hand knows to grow new skin cells, and your hand also knows when to stop growing new skin cells, but no biologist can answer how. Just remember that. That's where we are with Western medicine.
I've had 2 doctors tell me there's nothing else I can do about different situations. And of course, I looked at them and said, yes, there is. And then I went on to do what they said I couldn't do, because I'm of the belief, if I didn't have it before, now I have it, something's changed, something can be fixed. I can revert back to the state of homeostasis that I was in before. I just need to figure out what has either been added or what's
Right.
irritating my system.
Right.
And it's a great point to mention. I didn't really think about it before, because also Western medicine is very much the same. Healthcare is not healthcare, it's sick care. You only
Mhm.
go to the doctor most of the time when you're already feeling something negative. So we're
Correct.
already in crisis, and now we're
Mhm.
trying to just eliminate symptoms and possibly get rid of the situation. But what you're doing, I mean, in a way, I mean, you're coming in at the crisis too, because the people don't know to call you otherwise.
Right.
And a lot of what I'm doing is trying to do prevention of how do we
Yeah,
not get there? How do
totally.
we work on strengthening the body, keeping it healthy, keeping it happy, so that we're never there. We never need to go
Totally.
into that situation where I'm needing all this emergency care because I have diabetes, or because I had a heart attack because I didn't notice the signs, because I wasn't paying attention, or because my diet and my emotions create an environment where my body rejected it. So,
Totally. I'm
yeah,
with you. And I have to say, like, yeah, I'm in reactionary healthcare at this moment. But that's why I've been, want to do this podcast, and why I want to get this out there is because you know, I would far rather be talking about preventative and catching these things. That's why this message is so important to me, because it's like, if we can prevent a lot of this disease in ourselves and our animal companions, that's far more interesting to me.
So let's talk about how people work with you, how they find you, how you deliver your services, where they can learn more.
Yeah, thank you. So people can work with me private sessions. If you have an animal who's really super sick, that's what I recommend, is working with me privately. I do offer a membership site. It's called My Family Membership. That's really it's for women and their fur babies. Once a month, we get online and meditate together and do a group healing with them and their fur babies. And that's really good for building up the immune system. That's really like the good preventative care. People can find me on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and LinkedIn, and my website, leads people to all those places, rachelaugusta.com. And on my website, if you don't mind, I want to offer something that's on my website for people. There's an audio track that I created for people to listen to with their animals that actually triggers that physiological relaxation response in them, and in both the human and the animal. And it has helped so many animals that have had cancer, and maybe 4th of July, if your animals are afraid of 4th of July fireworks or thunderstorms, or if they have kidney disease, and they can just go to my website and download it. It's free, and it has binaural beats and all sorts of stuff in there that trigger the physiological relaxation response.
Perfect. And absolutely. So it's rachelaugusta.com.
Yes. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any last parting words for the people who are listening on ways that they can create a better environment for their animals to thrive right now, even if they don't have a unhealthy animal?
Yeah, schedule dance parties into your planner, daily dance parties. I'm all about dancing and having fun. I swear by it. Like, the more fun and happiness, connection, and relaxation you have in your life, the healthier your fur babies, your human children, anyone who lives with or around you is going to be.
We had a dance party this morning and a dance party on Monday morning. So we have
Did
had
you?
two morning dance parties, salsa lessons and all,
Awesome.
twice already this week. It's only Wednesday.
That is awesome. Do you go and do that? Do you have it at your house? How are your dance parties happening?
In the morning after coffee, a playlist goes on. Playlist at the end has a salsa song in it. And I'm currently teaching Doug a little bit more advanced moves in salsa. So we actually do a little salsa lesson, and then we do a salsa dance, and then we're done.
Oh my God, that's amazing. I love that.
Yeah, we want to keep all of us healthy and happy, and we love it. So I agree with you 100%. So have morning
Yeah.
dance parties or anytime dance parties.
Yeah,
Um,
anytime dance parties. I've been thinking about doing a live dance party on Facebook, just a Facebook live dance party, and whoever wants to join in can, because it's the power of dance. It's amazing.
and
So
bring your fur baby.
totally, they'll get the zoomies with us.
All right, everyone, go download that audio from Rachel, rachelaugusta.com. Check her out. And if you know anyone who has a pet that's suffering, please also recommend this show so they can hear both what they can do about it and also reach out for some help if they are ready to make some changes. So, Rachel, thank you for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me. This was a lot of fun.